Hello, people of the internet. I am Kaiju Noir. Here, back in the co-pilot seat, is Pete,
Hey!
and we are here to talk about the Wolverine, the latest in the long line of X-Men films, which surprisingly hasn't gone through a reboot yet, considering how the first one came out in like 2000.
It's been 13 years since the first movie.
I think so.
It's been a while, and I mean through that time frame, I guess you could wouldn't you consider almost X-Men First Class somewhat of a reboot in that sense? Because they do, from what I know, they do change the story up in like near the end with First Class.
Not until next year's X-Men movie.
Ah!
So the plot to the Wolverine takes place after X-Men 3, or X-Men The Last Stand, where Wolverine, he's left the X-Men. It's been several years. He's kind of living as a hobo, or living in the woods. And he's what the characters describe him as a Ronin, a samurai with no master.
Nothing left to live for.
Although he tries to pursue justice in his own ways. Whenever he sees some criminal act, he still feels the need to do good in the world. It is at that point where he meets Yukio, a mutant with the ability to predict people's deaths, and is also a very well-trained martial artist. She comes up to Logan, who tells him that a person that he saved back in World War II is dying, and asks to meet Logan one last time before he passes away. Once Logan meets this man named Yoshida, he offers Logan the chance for him to live a mortal life and pass his regenerative abilities to him. After Logan rejects this offer, Yoshida mysteriously dies, and soon afterwards, a whole lot of different parties are trying to take out his latest of kin, Mariko. So now Wolverine has to protect Mariko while fighting off the Yakuza, the corrupted police, and a third party, and a mysterious third party. Seeing as how this is the first X-Men movie that we've reviewed here, we are reviewing here on YouTube, I'd like to know your thoughts on the series so far.
Well, I think with most people, I like the first one. It was a good intro to the movie. The second one I got into as well. That had a lot of Wolverine backstory, right? Everything that basically happened with Project X, right?
Yeah.
So that one was good. When I was younger, I liked Last Stand. I haven't seen it ever since. I enjoyed it at the time, but again, I haven't had a chance to look back on it. First Class, I really liked. I really liked First Class. I think they did a great job with the characters. It was the first time I've ever seen Kevin Bacon in a long time. I like the story in that one as well. And it's something I really look forward to with the next movie. How they plan on bringing the stories together. Now, I never really got a chance to see X-Men Origins. I've heard that X-Men Origins isn't as popular as, people haven't really liked it as they've had previous X-Men movies for various reasons. The characters and how are they portrayed. I heard a lot of people really hated how they portrayed Deadpool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen some of the pictures when it came to, what they made him look like.
They decided to...
Laser beams? I mean, really? Cyclops' powers?
What they decided to do with the merc with the mouth is shut his
mute
mouth.
him! Yeah, I saw that! I'm like, okay, yes, he was a merc with a mouth before, but he continues being a merc with a mouth.
Were you ever a fan of the X-Men franchise outside of the films?
Somewhat I was. I never got too into it. I've never been a big comic buff myself. But I did get to experience some of the X-Men animated series. Growing up, I actually had a VHS of the X-Men, and it was of Wolverine and Sabretooth and a big old adventure anyways. That's besides the point. But I did like watching the show. I think it came on Saturday mornings. So that's where I got my main, experience with it. I never watched any of the X-Men, movies on the big screen. It always came later on. And again, it just never was something I really pushed to see. But that's just my experience. Like I said, I'm not a big movie guy, comic book guy myself. I'm sure it's different for you.
Growing up, I loved the X-Men animated series. That was my introduction to it. So I was really excited when I first saw the first two X-Men movies in theaters. Now it's been a long time since the last time I've seen them, and it's kind of interesting how most people are going back saying, those first two X Men movies weren't really that good because they're comparing it to the comic book movies of today. And but I do remember highly enjoying those movies. It was I was so happy seeing my favorite character, characters that I love brought to the screen. X Men 3 or X Men The Last Stand. That was a very disappointing movie for me. Not only because they wasted a lot of characters, but they took this really great story, the Dark Phoenix saga, and just completely disregarded everything that made it interesting. Then we go when it came to X Men Origins Wolverine. Again, it had a lot of potential, but unfortunately, it was a very sloppy story. And, X Men First Class, I really loved X Men First Class, and it was again interesting to see an X Men movie given the aesthetic look and feel of the Marvel Studios movies like Iron Man or Captain America. Outside of the movies, I did grow up with, after X Men the animated series, I did grow up with X Men Evolution. Unfortunately, I was never able to finish watching the entire series during its runs. I remember I probably watched like 2/3 of the episodes, but I was a big fan of that because it kind of felt like the movies as well. I also saw Wolverine of the X Men, which was the last X Men series. Again, it was really good. It felt like the '90s X Men animated series, but was unfortunately canceled after one season. And outside of that, have read a little bit of the comics. Uh, Not too much. I haven't been into the X Men. When it comes to the comics, I'm not into the X Men as much as I am with, say, a character like, say, Spider Man or Batman. Although that seems to be the case, since those two characters are always the most popular when it comes to comics. So now here we are with The Wolverine, the second attempt at a Wolverine solo film, which first I felt was kind of unnecessary, but then I really liked what they did with this story, because unlike X Men Origins Wolverine, which was a movie that told a story that was already elaborated on in the second movie, here's a very fresh and original tale that we have never seen before in film, with Wolverine in Japan, which, from what I hear, is a very popular story from the '80s, written by Chris Claremont and Frank Miller.
Yeah, when I first heard that he was going to Japan, I was actually really confused. Like I said, I'm not a big comic fan.
Uh huh.
I actually never knew that he went to Japan
Uh
itself. And looking at the movie, I feel like I was thinking in my head, like, if how much of an X Men movie would it be? If Wolverine wasn't in it.
huh. Hmm.
Like, I get, obviously, it's a big part, a huge part of Wolverine's story. But for me, for some reason, part of me didn't feel like it was. It didn't have the feel of the usual X Men movies.
Right, because there are very few mutants in this movie.
Right. And it's not to say it's a bad thing. It's just I just got a different feeling. It didn't, like I said, just didn't feel like an X Men movie.
Hmm.
Which, like I said, totally not a bad thing. But yeah.
While I was aware that there was a story arc where Wolverine was in Japan, I myself have not read that story as of this recording. Although I probably will after watching this film. And like you said, it did not feel like an X Men movie. But then again, it's not an X Men movie. It's a Wolverine movie. This is a movie centered on him after the events of X Men: The Last Stand. And if you see the trailers, you can and if you see this movie, you can definitely tell that Wolverine, he has definitely been suffering in the years since the death of Jean Grey in that movie.
Now my question is, I actually might look into the story as well. My question is how well it follows the comic. Whether do you happen to know if this particular storyline goes after the Dark Phoenix saga, or if it's any time before when the time is?
I don't think so, because I only know that the Wolverine in Japan story was in the '80s, and the Dark Phoenix saga might be late '80s, early '90s. I'm not. I can't honestly tell you because I've only when it comes to the Dark Phoenix saga, I've only seen the animated series version of that story. So when it came to the actual plot itself, what was your thoughts on it?
When it came to the plot, I really felt like it definitely moved around a lot. All of a sudden, you had someone dying. Then you had, someone trying to go after,
Mariko?
someone trying to go after the inheritor,
Uh-huh.
which makes sense. It's going from, someone dies, and then you got the yakuza, corrupt politicians, or like, even her own father trying to do things. And
Everyone's trying to go after Mariko for different reasons, and you got Wolverine stuck in the middle of it all.
exactly. And Wolverine, he sees this and he's like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I fight for justice, and this is what I'm gonna do. He just sticks along for the ride. I do have to add, it seems like every series or every comic book series has that one movie where the main character starts to lose his powers, and this just happens to be that movie.
You're right.
I swear, I see it in every series.
Like you have Spider-Man 2, he loses his powers.
Iron Man 3,
he loses his armor. Dark Knight Rises, he loses
his back.
his back, his money, his bat suit, everything.
Yeah, and this is like this is a very common thing in comic book movies. I mean, I can understand why. There's so many things you can put in a comic book movie, but that's something that actually I kind of liked.
I thought so too because Wolverine, his regenerative healing factor really kind of takes away any sort of drama that you might have in any of his fights because you're not really going to care if Wolverine gets stabbed because hey he's gonna heal. That's what made the last fight in X-Men Origins Wolverine so boring. The fight between him and Sabretooth was because they're just stabbing each other repeatedly and healing. Stab and heal, stab and heal, stab and heal.
I did have I was trying to think, the whole taking away his powers, I really wanted him to go more into, like, to what extent his powers were taken away. Because while it says it was only his health regeneration, I question, like, why not anything else?
Right.
Why not his strength, his claws, anything like that? I feel like they could have gone more into it, or at least explained a little more as to what happened.
Yeah, also, it seemed kind of a bit inconsistent with how much damage he could take in his weakened state because he still heals, but then it's like he sort of heals, but then he doesn't heal at all, or he receives gunshot wounds, yet he can still walk even though after he's been shot twice.
Yeah, it's not clearly explained just what his limit is after he loses his regenerative powers, because he eventually does pass out of blood loss, and it shows that bullets are affecting him at this point. But the question is to what extent, and what can be the down, because like I said, he passes out. There's one point where they actually have to even do surgery on him to save his life.
Yeah, and eventually in the movie you learn how he lost his regenerative abilities, and I'm still kind of confused by how that actually works.
Yeah,
like you have this one thing, and supposedly this one thing, I'm having trouble figuring out how this one thing is able to suppress it, but I don't think we can really get into it without spoiling it.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
Going into the cast, what were your thoughts on them?
Hugh Jackman, he's a Wolverine.
It's kind of funny how Hugh Jackman has played this role for so long, yet it seems very beneficial to him that, like Wolverine, he doesn't seem to age at all in any of these movies.
That's because he is the Wolverine!
Ah.
No, quite seriously, he is a Wolverine. Like, literally. Same hairstyle. You see him out in public, he's a Wolverine.
Although I like it with his hair. His hair actually has been like styled back to have like those curved horn, like the curved horn look, like his mask.
Yeah. Quick question: do you think we'll ever see the costume?
The classic Wolverine costume, red, blue and yellow. I don't. It's kind of hard to say because when the original X-Men came out, it came out during a period where colorful costumes weren't really the thing back then. Because at that point, you had the Batman series, and he has like the black rubber suits. You had Blade with the leather trench coat, and of course, so when you have X-Men, you had like the all black leather costumes as opposed to the very
Colorful.
colorful and variant costumes from the 90s. So, but then you had X-Men First Class, which brought back the yellow and blue suits, and considering the next movie, Days of Future Past, is gonna have those First Class characters interact with the new old characters, I think there's a chance we might see some form of the yellow and blue costume.
I would hope so, but the way I think about it is, it looks good in comic, but in real life, how is that?
Remember Captain America? Everyone said that Captain America would look stupid in real life, but in my opinion,
they did alterations. I mean, the costume does look different than the original costume for Captain America, doesn't it?
but they only like painted the wings on instead of giving it actual wings. Other than that, it's basically the costume from the comics.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to think what in real life the Wolverine would look like with his mask on.
He'd look badass. Spider-Man can wear a mask like that. If Iron Man can wear a helmet like that. If
Iron Man's looks awesome though.
Yeah, that's true.
Wolverine's is a little bit different from the usual costume design. You have to admit.
But remember, he's Wolverine.
Yeah.
Now I want to see Hugh Jackman actually put on a Wolverine costume and just to see how he looks like.
Oh, that would be hilarious.
I want to see him dress up like comic Wolverine for Halloween.
Just to appease the fans.
Yeah. You should have gone to Comic-Con dressed like Wolverine.
You should have.
So we've already established that that Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is awesome as always. I would even say he's the best character in the movie.
I would agree, yeah.
And I really liked how they personified how the filmmakers personified his guilt in the form of Jean Grey.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. The Jean Grey parts they were pretty interesting. They were like part of his psyche, basically. Just remembering everything that's happened. Throwing him back, making him miserable, basically.
Mm-hmm. As for supporting characters, I thought that a couple of them were pretty decent, while the rest of them they were serviceable, not very memorable, but they got the job done. I pretty much enjoyed Yukio. She was very tough, very resilient. She was kind of the kind of person that I guess Wolverine can relate to because they're both like warriors in a way of serving other people. I'm not sure about her ability to foresee people's deaths.
It's definitely a weird power.
Yeah, and also I recently quickly looked her up on Wikipedia, and apparently she doesn't even have any power. She's like a regular human in the comics. So I feel like they only added that mutant power in just to add unnecessary drama.
That is actually weird. And for the movie, I mean, I'm sure you would agree. The power isn't always consistent. It doesn't always, go on to what it's said to be.
Also, if she can see other people's deaths, doesn't that mean she already knows how everything's gonna end?
Yeah, well, yeah, there's that, but I mean, the grandfather died.
Mm-hmm. She said she didn't.
Well, basically, it's stated like she didn't see it, and it's obvious why she didn't see it. But if she can see everyone's deaths and she's so sure of it, then what's to stop her to believe? Well, I'll stop right there actually
because you don't. That's going into spoiler territory.
Yeah.
Okay. I did like Mariko. She's kind of like that very peaceful character who is the kind of person that I guess Wolverine would be attracted to, I guess, because in a way she helps Wolverine cope with his losses, and eventually find a new reason for going on in life.
For me, she was a weird character in the beginning, but like you said, her character, did build up to something much more important. At first, she seemed kind of like a little mean person, but again, like you said, as her relationship with Logan grew, she really became a better person. We found out a lot about her and her family and what was going on with that. So I really did enjoy that. But again, in the beginning, I was like, I'm not too sure about you. I'm not liking you. Yeah.
As for the villain of the movie, Viper, I was very disappointed with her. Not that I'm a Viper fan, because I didn't know who she was until I saw this movie, but she was just very generic, no personality whatsoever. Whatever personality was there, you've seen in other movies. She did not feel like a villain. She felt like more like a villain's lackey, pretty much exactly like Emma Frost.
Yeah, we talked about this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the White Queen from First Class. She was there to look pretty.
And you really have to question her motives. What does she get out of doing what she does?
Actually, we never get her motivation for this.
Exactly. I mean, what she does leads up to something big, but it's in no way benefits her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with her power, she could have all the money she wants. What does she need? Really, and you just think about what she needs. I mean, because she's not honorable. It does not seem at all like she's an honorable person.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty sure she's not doing it for someone or for something.
Mm-hmm.
So I really wish they would go more into the character, or give us some backstory, where she's from, what she does, her history. Has she done stuff before? Just something to make her a little more interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she's no Kevin Bacon.
No, not at all. Nope. What about
Silver Samurai?
Silver Samurai?
Oh yeah, it was pretty awesome. Although, as funny as that, again, after doing a quick little research, the person in the comics who is the Silver Samurai the person who is the Silver Samurai in the comics is not the Silver Samurai in the movie. He's a ninja in this movie with a pretty interesting backstory, interesting motivations for what he does in the film. Although not really that memorable. Although he kind of seems to switch sides on a dime.
Now that I think about it, I think it was almost kind of forced. I feel like he was only there to create conflict for Mariko when it came down to near the very end.
Mm-hmm.
And that was his sole purpose. He tries to convince her, and I don't know. I wasn't too big a fan of his character.
Uh-huh. And as for the Silver Samurai himself, well, without going into spoilers, he was pretty awesome.
He was pretty awesome.
I was really happy that they were willing to put a giant silver samurai in an X-Men movie. That's probably the most out there, outside of First Class, is probably the most out there concept.
Oh yeah.
In the rest of the series,
you don't think you watch X-Men, you don't think of a giant silver samurai.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the first thing that comes to your mind when you think X-Men.
Right, and I feel like they're finally going in a direction that I like with these movies. They're finally going into like I said, a more out there direction.
Yeah, it's a different villain, one that most people more likely haven't heard of.
Right,
which is a good thing. They're exploring different things.
And I like what they did with the Silver Samurai, because in the movie, the Silver Samurai was an old ancient warrior from the Yoshida family, from the same family that Mariko is a part of, and it's kind of funny how I like how they added it to their to this sort of mythology and then bringing it back for a new form.
Cool. Oh yeah.
Just so it's why are you picking? It's not why are you making a giant silver samurai?
There's a reason.
There's a reason. It's it's part of a family tradition sort of thing. I like that. I like that explanation rather than just having a dude show up saying dressed up like a samurai and
because we're Japanese and we have samurai.
Yeah. No, I think that just might be the case with the movie, but it's not as blatant, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, because again, they do have that original piece of the Silver Samurai, but it's not the Silver Samurai itself just comes out of nowhere, or there was never a mention of a Silver Samurai, and then all of a sudden here he is. So at least there is a little time.
Yeah, it's a good villain. I just wish that he would have been the more prominent villain rather as opposed to Viper.
Yeah, Viper. Let's not get started back on Viper.
So when it comes to the action scenes now, were they entertaining in any way?
They were. I kind of have to admit, when the first couple of action scenes started and you saw, Logan getting shot, he got really disoriented, which is, I don't know, it kind of bothered me a bit, but I get it, they have to make him look weak. However, there was one scene in particular that kind of threw me off.
Mm-hmm.
There's guns being fired, people running around, and they're in a pachinko place, and no one's even caring. They're like, oh, there's people, let's keep playing, paching, paching, paching. I don't know, I found...
You've obviously never been to Vegas, haven't you?
No.
No. If the people playing those pachinko machines are anything like the people in Vegas, they just do not care, They're just spending the rest of their quarters just...
they turn around. We've had bigger problems. We've had Godzilla.
Yeah, we've had Gamera and common riders, passing
Bullets?
by these streets. That's just every day, Unless you have a giant robot with you, we don't give a damn.
Let's just go back to losing all our money. Paching, paching, paching. The final fight with the Silver Samurai, I found that to be... It was a really good fight. Especially the part, with should I mention?
No, I don't think... No, it's spoiler territory.
Okay. The final fight with the Silver Samurai, it was a good fight. There was... just seeing the Silver Samurai move and attacking Logan, it was fun seeing how they interacted with each other. I will admit though, I had a pretty lame scene for
Viper.
For Viper, yeah. Viper's scene, it was kind of funny, but I don't think it's meant to be funny.
I was kind of entertained by the action scenes in this movie. I especially love the bullet train sequence. You got as you've seen in the trailer, Wolverine, he's just like on top of this bullet train going like 300 miles an hour,
Yeah,
constantly avoiding all sorts of signs and giant metal poles in the way.
Yeah, I seriously can't believe I forgot to mention that one. That's my favorite scene from the whole movie.
I liked it, except the green screen used in that was kind of a bit iffy. It didn't really look like they were actually on an actual train. I mean, of course they weren't on the train, but it didn't. I thought that the effects weren't convincing enough for what they were trying to do. As for another thing that really bothered me throughout the entire movie, you have a dude with claws, sharp claws in his hands. They're stronger than steel.
I have
He's
a feeling I know where this is
stabbing
going.
so many dudes, cutting up so many guys, and not an ounce of blood drops
I knew you were
from
going
their
for
bodies.
That actually, yeah, I noticed that too.
This is a movie that needs to be rated R, not PG-13.
Well, even if it is PG-13, I'm pretty sure PG-13 movies have shown blood, right? I'm
Right. The only time they've ever shown blood was when Wolverine was getting whenever you see a gunshot or a stab wound from Wolverine.
Yeah, whenever he's getting fixed up. I mean, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's the extent of the blood right there.
But that is true. I mean, you should be able to see heads flying, limbs getting cut off. But it's just a puncture wound, no blood.
Yeah, I mean, take a look at X-Men Origins Wolverine, the video game, because that was surprisingly a very good game because they had an extra year of development for that game, and that was gory as hell. He just stabbing dudes left and right, chopping everybody. You see he's getting all burnt up and blown off, and you see his skin, muscles showing, and you see it slowly heal as you play the game. That's the Wolverine I want to see.
Oh yeah. I mean, like you said, he's got one of the most vicious attacks or weapons that could really cause some serious collateral damage. And there's not one ounce of blood scene.
Yeah, at least do something similar to the 90s animated series, to any of the animated series, and just have him fight robots. At least you can actually see him dismember stuff.
Sparks flying. I don't know. It's something.
Yeah, I want to see the Wolverine. I want to see the Wolverine. No restrictions, nothing holding him back.
And yeah, I totally agree with you on that. It was just really weird seeing, absolutely no blood.
Yeah, it was very distracting.
I have another nitpick, actually. This nitpick comes from a Silver Samurai fight, and I think you might know where I'm going with this. During the fight, the Silver Samurai uses an adamantium sword. Now, the sword gets lit on with fire, or what I'm assuming is heat, fire, whatever.
Yeah, it's extremely hot.
Yeah, so he's using one hand to use a sword. All of a sudden, he pulls out a second one. And what do you know? It's on fire. So during the fight, Logan picks up the sword, and he's trying to get it to turn on, turn on, turn on. And then eventually, he remembers one thing that a certain person told him. Oh, I gotta use both of my hands. And that's when it decides to turn on with fire. I'm just thinking, why does he have to use two hands to turn on with fire? Is it activated by pressure? What's going on? I don't know.
I'm thinking either it's like you said, pressure, or his hands weren't his one hand wasn't big enough. Like the Silver Samurai has very large hands and can hold the sword very tight. Maybe he needs to have both hands to cover the same amount of area on the sword that the Silver Samurai can cover. I don't know.
To me, it just makes no sense. I mean, yeah, if it's pressure, how the heck does putting pressure on a sword make it fiery? I don't know. I guess it's a nitpick, but still, it bothered me.
Hey, science.
Science.
So on to final ratings, Pete.
It was a good movie. I enjoyed it. It's not like a AAA superhero movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a Wolverine movie. I'd say go watch it. There's not really a lot to say about this movie. It's just a superhero movie with Wolverine, and that's basically it. As a rating, I'd give the movie 3 stars because, like I said, I actually had some fun watching the movie. It wasn't bad, and it wasn't like something amazing. I had a good time watching the film.
I pretty much feel the same way as you do, where it's a decent movie. It's very competent, way better than the last Wolverine movie that we got. Although it's nothing very memorable, really. I mean, it's not something that draws you in, like say First Class or the first 2 X-Men movies. You're gonna have, if you would decide to watch this movie, you're not gonna waste your money. It's a fun ride while it lasts. So that's why I'm giving this movie a 3 out of 5 as well.
Would you watch the movie again?
Maybe. I don't know.
Would you buy it on DVD?
No. No, not really. Unless it came in like a complete box set 20 years from now when the movie series has been finally rebooted or something.
Would you watch it on TV?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. Maybe.
Like I guess, like we said, it's just a movie. It's nothing too memorable.
But still fun nonetheless. At least watch it if you still enjoy the idea of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, then yes, definitely see it. If you're curious to know what will happen to him between this movie and the next movie.
No, you know what? Just watch it for the ending, because the ending is freaking amazing.
Yes.
Go watch it, because you want to go see that dang hidden ending.
It's not the very end of the credits. It's just like after the first 5 minutes of the credits. That sort of ending where it's like you see the initial credits, ending credits, and then you see the scene, then the ending, slow ending credits.
Because, yeah, believe me, when we saw that, we were hyped.
Yeah.
We were excited.
I'm excited for Days of Future Past now.
I cannot wait to see that.
And I'm going to read the comic before it happens.
That's a good idea. But stick around just a couple minutes. You won't be disappointed.
With that said, I hope you enjoyed this review for the Wolverine. So until next time, everybody, take care.
And we'll see you again at the movies.